Mackenzie Johnston with Cattle News Central, bringing you your January 25th cattle industry headlines. Brought to you by AgRisk Advisors. They provide risk management programs to livestock producers all throughout the West. Whether you are concerned about price or weather risk, AgRisk Advisors, they are here to help. With current day market fluctuations, you and I both know there is nothing more important than locking in a price floor on your cattle. So if you'd like to learn more about an LRP, go ahead and reach out to an advisor today. Also sponsored by Circle 5 Cow School. If you're wanting to learn how to preg check your own cows or start AIing, Circle 5 Cow School is the way to go. They host classes from Texas to Tennessee almost every week. To check out their schedule, head on over to circle5cowschool.com. That is the number 5 in there, or you can go ahead and just give them a follow on Facebook. And finally, we are sponsored by Real Beef Made from Plants campaign. The creative folks over at American Beef Producer Magazine are now offering t-shirts, hats, and bumper stickers that promote wholesome beef. To check out what they have to offer, head on over to realbeef.store. Arlen Suderman with Stone X was recently featured on RFD-TV's television show Ag Day. He discussed COVID-19 and its impacts on the industry and some other issues that have been impacting the cattle industry. When asked about COVID-19's impact on slaughter rates and current prices, Suderman stated that the virus is causing obvious packer constraints, which is resulting in a limited number of cattle being slaughtered. Currently, our industry is processing right around 114,000 head per day, but we should be closer to 121 to 122,000 head per day. This reduction in slaughter is backing up cattle just about everywhere, and feeders that you talk to, almost all of them can attest to the situation. Tighter supplies of meat continues to impact the prices at the meat counter. As we all have seen and continue to experience, the incredible demand and increased prices at the retail level are not trickling down to feeders or cow-calf producers, according to Suderman. Suderman believes that this situation is contributing to a higher cow slaughter rate. Surprisingly, Suderman, he didn't touch on the fact of drought impacting higher cow slaughter rates. He believes it's the mere fact that cow-calf producers, they aren't able to make a profit or very little profit, so they're just throwing their hats in, and a lot of those cows that they're selling are being slaughtered. The biggest takeaway from this interview, Suderman believes as demand continues to grow here in America, we're going to continue to need to import more and more foreign meat to keep up with demand. At the end of the day, what we're going to do is we're going to put the cowman out of business, said Suderman. So Lonesome Lands reported yesterday on the University of Arkansas's analysis that came out that went over the Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act of 2021. So I reported on this yesterday. And this analysis essentially says that that act will do nothing for cattle producers and will not have an impact on cattle pricing. So my good friend over at Lonesome Lands, Jim Mundorf, he dug a little bit deeper into some of the facts around this situation and came up with some numbers that are staggering that everyone needs to realize when we look at the fact that the University of Arkansas, they're the ones that came out with this report. So, as we all know, Arkansas is home to the largest meat packer here in the United States, Tyson Foods, and for years now, the University of Arkansas has received millions upon millions of dollars in donations from the Tyson Foods Foundation. In recent history, the university received $16.3 million from Tyson. Most recent was in May of last year when they received $300,000. When Don Tyson passed away in 2011, there was an article that stated that Tyson had made $27 million in personal, corporate, and foundation gifts. A person has to ask themselves if this report issued by the University of Arkansas is skewed just a little bit, considering the amount of money that they have received from one of the major meat packers here in America. So then on top of all that, the U.S. Senate Agricultural Committee, they're the ones that requested this report. as we talked about, and the minority leader of that committee just so happens to be Arkansas Senator John Boozman. Boozman has been adamantly opposed to any and all sorts of regulations that might possibly rein in the meat packers' ability to manipulate the market, according to Mundorf. If you have not read this piece by Jim Mundorf, I encourage you all to do so. He always does a fantastic job, but he really hit this one out of the park. I posted it yesterday on my Facebook page. Just go ahead, scroll down, check it out. He did a great job. And everything he stated in this article, it should be out there to the public. The media should be covering these facts. But if you read the Drover's article on this situation, of course, they're not going to cover anything about Tyson or anything about Boozman because it doesn't fit their narrative. But check out Jim's piece. It's real great. CTV News out of Canada has reported that feedlots in Canada are currently relying on corn and dried distillers grains from the United States because the drought of 2021 resulted in crops yielding little to nothing. Supply chain issues are getting in the way of feed arriving on time. Whether we're talking about feed being delivered by train or truck, labor shortages are causing a major issue. Feedlot operators in Canada usually use a combination of silage and barley to feed their cattle, but they are now having to mix corn with barley, and they'll eventually switch to straight corn when they run out of barley, which will happen here in the near future. In 2020, Canada received 600 rail cars of corn. By mid-December of 2021, they had received 8,000 rail cars of corn, and it is expected to be an even larger number this year. Stuart Thiessen, who owns and operates Namaka Farms in Alberta, feeds 21,000 head of cattle, and he only has 2 weeks left of feed for those cattle. Thiessen has a contingency plan to switch his cattle over to a maintenance diet if his feed supplies get any lower. He said if grains quit coming to the U.S., ultimately the cattle will just starve. There are 5 generations that have run Namaka Farms, and in all of that time, they have never seen such terrible feed shortages. Yahoo News has reported that the price of urea in the Corn Belt fell 8.2% this past Friday to $675 per short ton, the lowest price that we have seen since October. Urea prices have fallen each week this month due to the market adjusting to reports of full warehouses. Retail prices for fertilizer are still sky high, almost double what we saw last time at this year, but according to Green Markets analyst Alexis Maxwell, that could soon reverse. Let's all cross our fingers. Finally, Reuters has reported that the United States opened its borders to even more Brazilian beef imports last week when Minerva Foods South America was deemed acceptable to export fresh beef from a plant in the interior of Sao Paulo state. This approval makes Minerva Foods South America's largest beef exporter with 7 units in Brazil authorized to export to the United States. That is all I have for you guys this morning. I hope everyone's week is off to a great start. Stay warm today. It is sure chilly here. Have a wonderful Tuesday.